Hi everybody, it's another Saturday night for me. Another week of reading. Some real cracking things to talk about this week. And beer choice today is it's Madri. Let's see if we can get that in focus. There you go. Madri Exceptional El Alma de Madrid. Brewed in the UK almost certainly. But yeah, not bad, not bad. This at all. I've been drinking this while I was out at the bar the other week, and I thought I'll pick up a few bottles while I'm here. I've no snack this week though, so yeah, I might have to get on the game for next week. But Madri we are drinking, and it's been an interesting sort of week. I've finished up a couple of books, not all of which I expected to do. But let's start with undoubtedly the surprise find of the year. I think for me, a book that, while it's in a classic book series, I have never heard anybody talk about. This is Earth Abides by George R. Stewart, a book from 1949, part of the SF Masterworks Gollancz classic collection of books. This is the 12th book that we've done this year, or the 12th book that we've done in a row. This is the 12th entry in publication order of these. And this is an absolute cracking book. There has been a long history of post-apocalyptic fiction. And in fact, if you skipping past this thinking, God, I don't really read sci-fi, this is not really a sci-fi book in any way other than speculating what would happen if we had a pandemic. Stop me if you've heard this one before, because post-pandemic stories have become all the rage now, especially since, world events. I don't know if anybody remembers. There was like a thing came across. Anyway, you know the story. So The Stand, Station 11 more recently, they all have a go at pandemic happens, a lot of the world's population dies out. What happens next in that conflict or that bit afterwards? Even The Road, which I read earlier on this year, falls into that category. But Earth Abides does something a bit different. We have a main character called Ish, who is up a mountain when the pandemic seems to break. In fact, he gets bitten by a rattlesnake, and he's trying to suck the venom out and all that kind of stuff, and he goes into very high fever and nearly dies. But when he comes down from the mountain, he can't find anybody about, and in that week's period, it turns out pandemic has happened, and probably more so than any other book, a bigger amount of the population has been wiped out than any other book I can think of. There's just basically nobody left. He goes back to his parents' house. There's nobody even about. And it sort of sets up this idea that the author says, I'm not going to deal with all the amount of dead bodies. I'm not going to deal with any of that kind of stuff. I'm just going to talk about initially what our character Ish is going to do, where he's going to go to find civilization, or what's important for him. Because remember, he was a character that went up the mountains by himself, so it's not like he was a very communal person to start off with. Once we get past a certain point of the book and he realizes something's out, we start to look at what civilization can look like. And what the crux of the book is about how this man, in such small numbers of humanity that are left, how he feels he should contribute to the new form of society and what that looks like. And the book is very much a battle of him trying to impose himself in the world. But interestingly, whereas an awful lot of other books of this type will look to impose archetypes that are left in, so we'll have a doctor left, it's the kind of classic, there's 12 people on an island, we can only save 5 of them, who be to save. It's not that, because you have issue. It's a solitary character, he's university qualified or educated, lives in geography. He's not really suited to a post-apocalyptic world, and a lot of the people that are around him that he meets up with are not even his intellectual equals. And when they start to go about trying to make society, he thinks he should be teaching people to read, all of this kind of stuff, but other people are not quite so in tune with that, because the world is much different. They have basically become scavengers. There are so few people left that the amount of tin foods will keep them going for dozens and dozens of years. The amount of resources that they'll have, dozens and dozens of years, and with electricity and water and all of that still running, is there any need for that? And the whole book ruminates in like a thought process about that, and it is so expertly done in terms of how it examines that part of society without loads of conflict, without loads of. There are certainly events that happen in it, but I just found the whole thing such a joy to read. It is interspersed with these little bits, that look at him and the world through his eyes, but also these little bits that are in italics that happen every now and again that give you an overview of other things that are happening in the world, or other thoughts that characters are having, or the other impact on them. And there are a couple of events in the book that just give you real pause and thought. We've done a spoiler discussion about this earlier on. I'll put it up during the week. It goes into depth into why this book is exceptionally good. I have it ranked at the very top tier of the series that I have read so far, and the fact that this was written in 1949, just after the Second World War, when the rest of the world would have been looking about how we rebuild society at that time, and this kind of view that George R. Stewart had in it, there's hardly any science in it at all. It's just very much what happens after civilization is ended. I think this is a hearty recommendation, even if you don't like sci-fi. If you love Station 11, especially the first part of Station 11, which I think is the best part of Station 11, this is such a recommendation for you. Earth Abides by George R. Stewart. I believe it's the only science fiction-y kind of speculative book that he did, but really, really terrific. Next one that I read and finished it started a while ago, was Children of Ruin, Book 2 in the series by Adrian Tchaikovsky, which I believe wasn't actually planned as a series, and it sort of makes sense because Children of Ruin takes a lot of the ideas of the first novel and uses them again. And rather than set up as a brand new concept, it uses some of the events in the end of the first book and tries to tie it together. And some of it works and some of it doesn't, for me anyway. There are definitely parts of this that I felt either dragged in terms of going over old ground again, or they didn't work in terms of how we communicate. So to set it up a little bit, we have a world where spaceships went away to explore and look for futures for humanity, and one of them went one direction in the first book and another ones went in another direction for book 2. And rather than spiders in the first book, we have cephalopods or octopi, depending on what you're going to look at. And yes, it kind of goes down that route. However, Children of Ruin takes an unexpected turn about 150 pages in turning into what can only be described as a pretty horrific horror story in some ways, in much of the classic ways. I don't want to ruin exactly why it's a horror. It doesn't turn into a horror the whole way, but there are some scenes in it that I think are like, oh my god, this is quite frightening. I don't want to put people off because it doesn't last the entire book or anything, but it definitely plays with some ideas about the sense of self, and especially in a work with a series of books that is looking at humanity post, or looking for the future of somewhere else to live. I think it's quite hard to do. Now, I think by the end of the book, it does some interesting things with that. I think it kind of throws ideas. By the last 100 pages, like most Tchaikovsky books, are eminently readable. I'm not a super fan of the ending, but I would like to hear other people's views on that. I think it wraps up a bit too neatly, but we also have another book to go, which I'm going to put a bit of a gap in between, because if the next book kind of starts in a similar sense, I think it'll kind of turn me off rather than putting some distance between it. But Children of Ruin is not at the level of Children of Time, but I think that may be just because it treads similar ground. If I'd have read this one first and the other one second, I might have thought this was the brilliant book. That might be the case, but Children of Ruin, pretty good. The other thing that I read, and I've just finished the spoiler discussion of this, is book 2 of Saga of the Swamp Thing, the Alan Moore run of this, and this is a big step up as well from book 1 of this, which seemed much more serialized 80s comic. This has definitely got 80s comic written all over it as well, but it does some weird and wacky theming and ideas and breadth of storytelling right the way through this. This is, a collection of the issues of the comic that ran from, I think it's issue 35, or no, issue 28 to 34, and includes the annual. So this is volume 3 I'm holding up, but book 2 is one I'm finished. There's some really great exploration of character and about, again, these similar ideas of self and worth and, individuality and all of that kind of stuff. You can see some moments of real genius in this, and the things sort of to pull in lots of different directions. It's a series that I'm now fully on board with, and I enjoyed it so much more than the first book. So those are things I've been reading and very much enjoying. Other things that I've been going, I talked about To Hell with Poets. I read another couple of stories in that. I've kind of a bit over halfway on that. I've only a couple more stories left to go. Enjoying this greatly, but it is because they're all like little short stories. I'm not really compelled to keep on going through it, and because I was sort of wrapping up a couple of those reads, I can't put myself into that. The other thing I'm reading is Royal Assassin, Robin Hood, Book 2 of the Farseer trilogy. I'm about 130 pages into that at the moment, taking it quite slow, but again, it's a very compelling read. Great to be back in that world with those characters, and kind of very interesting to keep on going in that direction. And the other thing that I'll start this week, and I don't have to have it read for another couple of weeks for a read that we're doing, is 1984 by George Orwell. And in fact, I found when I went on Audible, I had a credit to use, and I don't think I've ever seen a book have as many different versions that I can dig into. There are versions with Stephen Fry, there's versions with lots of people, but I've went for one with Peter Capaldi that I'm very much looking forward to. So I'll do a part audio, part a read of that. I might take the full 2 weeks to read that, but we'll see how I get on with that. It might be once I start it. It's a story that I know. I've seen various film adaptations of it. I've seen various depictions of it in other places. It's sort of famed novel in its own right for the themes that it's got, but it'll be interesting to dig into that. So that's in terms of what I've been reading or what I plan to read. What else have I been doing? I've been watching a bit of TV actually. I sort of fell into, by the end of last week, the Olympics have started. I'm full on Olympics mode. I'll be Olympics mode for the next week or two. I fucking love the Olympics. Just something about it. Even my wife phoned me this morning and says, "Oh, are you sleeping?" I went, "No, God, I'm watching the Olympics. It's great. Bit of gymnastics, bit of cycling, bit of rugby, bit of swimming, bit of rowing. It's all been going on." But before that, I was watching a bit of trying to watch a bit of the Tour de France, and then I realised there was a Netflix series called Tour de France Unchained. I've watched basically the whole first series of that. Really much enjoyed getting to know a lot of the characters that are involved and the personalities of the people that are in there. Love some, hate some. That was an awful lot of fun to do, and I've watched a couple of movies, some a bit more gruesome than other ones. I watched Lake Mungo and Frontiers, or watched The Red Balloon, lovely 34-minute long French film, but a young boy with a red balloon. I highly encourage you to watch that if you find it anywhere yourself. Kind of thought-provoking in its own way. And that's been my week. That's what I've been up to. What have you been up to? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll speak to you all again soon. Hope you are all doing well. Take care.